Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to Star Trek Prodigy, a ReBingeIt podcast. My name is James.
And my name is Kim, and we're watching Star Trek Prodigy and talking about it here on the Talk Through Media network of podcasts. Hit it! Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 1, Episode 3, Starstruck. Because last week was both Episodes 1 and 2. We're already on 3. This episode began streaming on November 4th, 2021. We'll be following a similar format as last week, where we'll walk through the episode and discuss the highlights and the lowlights, and then we'll read out feedback and play a clip from our kid correspondent, Mahi.
So this is the first real episode where they're actually on a ship.
Yeah, this gives the episode much more of a Star Trek feel than Star Wars. I mean, there are no rebels in this episode either. At least they don't mention it like they did in the last episode.
There is a little of Emperor Diviner.
And Grievous.
Yes, Darth Dreadnought. I just hope the animation is up to the same standard that we saw last time, and they didn't blow all their budget on the first episode. So now we have the intern on an old laptop putting together something quick with an old copy of Flash that they have.
I was not worried about that. That seems a little irrational, and I would have been shocked if the quality had all of a sudden dipped. But, you know, if you look at any of the previous Star Trek shows, there are definitely episodes that are not up to the quality of other episodes. So it is certainly possible that we might see a dip here and there, but it was not in the animation in this episode.
Very true.
So on with this episode.
Should that be engage?
No, I think it should be hit it.
Thank you, Captain Pike. So into the episode. First of all, these are just great opening credits. I haven't seen it enough times to just skip it and get on with the episode. I actually really like them. And those opening credits close with a few bars of the classic Trek theme before they put up the logo. It's perfect. It's so good. In my opinion, probably one of the best opening credits of any Star Trek show. I would say it's better than Discovery, and it's even better than my beloved Deep Space Nine.
I think the Voyager theme has always been my favorite, even though TNG is my favorite Trek show, but I think the Voyager theme always really stands out. And anytime they have a couple of bars of it in another show, like in Picard or in this show, it just gives me goosebumps. I think it's great.
Yes.
I haven't watched this one enough yet to either want to skip it. And this time I noticed that we see the faces of the main characters. I don't know how I didn't see that before, but just kind of an outline of each of them as the ship flies around. Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, yeah. When they play those bars of the classic Trek, that is chill right up my spine.
And we're such geeks.
Yeah, guilty.
Yeah.
So we start off in this episode right where the last one left off. Everybody is on the bridge looking at the Janeway hologram in confusion.
Did you notice that in her little spiel at the beginning, she said that her role as training advisor programmed to assist the Protostar's crew on their journey back to Federation space. So this brings up the question of, why is this ship here? Was it sent here to pick someone up? Because it seems very purposeful, you know, what she said.
Right.
And Hologram Janeway knows that they're not in Federation space. So it was clearly created to do something outside of Federation space.
Yeah, was this a ship created for a very specific mission? And the hologram is continuing that mission.
What's interesting is there's that episode in Voyager where they think that the Federation sent them a ship, an advanced ship that was going to rescue them, right? And they go to that ship and they find out it's something else, right? It's a trap. It's interesting to me because that's what they're suggesting here, is that the Federation did send a ship into the Delta Quadrant for something similar.
Yeah.
So this is really fascinating.
The hologram Janeway also identifies herself as one of the most decorated captains in Starfleet history. They don't say Admiral Janeway, so I think this is more evidence of the timeline, although hasn't it come out now that this is 2382?
I think 83.
Oh, 83.
If that year makes a difference.
Yep.
But yes, set sometime maybe less than 20 years before Picard and sometime after Voyager.
So the Captain Janeway would still be around and active.
I mean, I guess so. That doesn't mean that's when the ship was created.
True.
Let's be honest, right? Ship could have been created anywhere along the way and sent over there.
Yep.
And speaking as a person with a car who gets updates from the internet, they also could have sent the Janeway hologram later.
Oh, they did a firmware update.
Yeah, but then they should have done an update to make her something bigger, something, you know, Admiral, queen of the universe. I don't know.
You do like Janeway.
Oh, I love Janeway. The hologram is a little confused, as confused as a hologram can be, about why the Starfleet crew doesn't know what the Federation is. Dal tells Janeway he's the captain, and the rest of the bunch roll their eyes, but nobody really disputes it. It's like they kind of scoff, but they let it go. The point of this seems to simply be to give Janeway a chance to explain what the Federation and Starfleet are to people unfamiliar with Trek.
Yes, and we also see some of the founding races of the Federation, because it does like a whole little holographic display as she's doing the explanation. Is that Spock, by the way?
It's a Vulcan at the very least. And we also see a Tellarite and an Andorian and a human. So I guess that's what they're trying to show.
Yeah. She tells them about the principles of universal liberty, rights, equality, except for the Trill. Unjoined Trill are kind of cannon fodder to the higher caste symbionts.
Oh my God, it's just like Deep Space Nine. Are you going to go on a rant now about the symbionts and how they're parasites?
No, I'm done.
Okay. They're not parasites. They're memory sticks.
Yeah, you do keep on calling them USB sticks.
Yeah. Anyway, she even includes the classic Starfleet boldly go speech. It was really cool to hear Janeway say it.
Oh, that totally got me. And the use of the music, they are so really getting it, of mixing the show action with music. It's really well done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just loved her putting in the boldly go.
Yeah, it finally feels like Star Trek here during this part.
Yeah.
We do get a glimpse of some ships in her presentation, and it includes a crossfield ship, which is the same as Discovery for those eagle-eye watchers who like to pause and look for details. She does a really good job of explaining everything. It's really clear and concise.
Yeah.
But none of them know anything about the Federation, and Zero asks, is such a collective possible? Everyone is very keen on the concept except for Dal. He seems to be a little cynical. He specifically plots a course away from Federation space, and he calls Janeway Holo Nanny, which made me like him a bit less at this point.
Well, Dal tells the others that the Federation is just another boss, and that people in authority lie. It's a good life for them, not you. If it sounds too good to be true, then it is. Wow. Dal really has quite a cynical edge. I expect this comes from his own personal experiences of being a prisoner all his life, that you would look at the bosses as just looking out for themselves. Even the concept, I think, of, maybe a authority organization or figure that isn't self-serving and malicious is probably alien to him.
That sort of obnoxious nature that he has here, where he's not trusting, he thinks he knows more than everybody else, and he is acting much tougher than he really is. You last week brought up the point that you felt like this character was similar to the Fresh Prince, and this is a little bit why I didn't relate to that character and didn't really like that character, because it was kind of the same. And, you get that sort of feeling here, at least up till this point.
Yeah. Well, the Fresh Prince has a lot of bravado.
Yeah.
We see that come out a little bit more later.
I don't like it.
Gotcha.
Well, Pog and Rok go off to investigate the ship while Zero and Dal put Gwyn in the brig. Zero reveals that they can't read Gwyn's mind, and despite the bravado, Zero detects that Dal is actually terrified of the diviner coming after them, and Dal pretends to just laugh it off. He's like, oh, haha.
Yeah, that's that thing. Bravado is a big part of Dal.
Yeah.
I also think if we look at Dal, that's probably also something of a positive and a negative. Remember, everybody else here has been kind of beaten down, and he's the only one who still had hope of escaping. That, if you like, irrational sense of I can get out of here and the hope of being able to do it.
Interesting. Except he's the one who doesn't buy the story of hope.
Which I think makes it interesting that they've sort of flipped this. But he's seeing it from a perspective of the bosses and the overseers that he's seen and not to trust them.
He's thinking we can save ourselves, or I can save myself.
Right, yeah.
And not someone else.
I don't trust these people because I've been lied to in the past.
Yeah.
We now go to the bad guys, and we see the diviner is putting on some kind of power suit, which looks like it supplies the fluids to him, like in the chamber he was in when we saw him last time.
Right.
And he tells Dreadnought to prepare the Rev 12. So does this mean we get more ships?
I would hope so. We don't have just one ship. That doesn't make sense. Rok and Pog have discovered the mess hall, and happily for Pog, Hologram Janeway explains that the Federation has moved beyond currency, which confuses him, so she has to spell it out by saying, it's free.
I like that.
He's like, woohoo! And here we learn that Rok has never had food other than what was given to her in the mines, and that's all she knows to order.
That's really kind of sad.
Yeah, and they even play some really somber music when that happens. She's going to have to learn to explore her own interests.
I guess that's playing to that classic kids trope of the orphan who hasn't had a very good life.
Yeah, but it's still very sweet.
Yes.
If only she broke into song. That's all that was missing.
Were you thinking of Annie too?
Not until you said that.
Dal and Zero are also exploring. He's found the captain's quarters, and he seems to think he deserves the big room.
Yeah.
That would fit.
Yeah, he continues to be a jerk in this episode. I mean, the captain's quarters are a little out of proportion with the bunk beds in the other room. It's like, is that the only choice? You've either got the giant captain's quarters or you have to sleep in a bunk bed. But, this is a selfish move.
That's kind of an accurate summary of Dal so far this episode.
Agreed. Rok-Tahk goes to see Gwyn and asks why she didn't stop her father from taking prisoners and mistreating them. Gwyn is feeling some guilt, obviously, in the scene for what she did. She said her father told her that they were criminals. Rok very sweetly gives her a plate of food, the stuff from the mines, saying, we aren't criminals.
I think confirming that Rok-Tahk is the caring one of even for the prisoner, she's actually bringing her food.
Yep.
Jankum and Zero are now in the engine room, and Pog is very impressed that they have 2 warp cores. 2 warp cores?
Yep.
This is kind of awesome. And another big glowing blue thing in between the cores. Zero brings up, what is this thing? And Jankum has no idea what it is.
Well, it's either a transwarp drive or the quantum slipstream drive. That's what I think.
Place your bets. You've wanted to play that sound since we started podcasting, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And because we got a red alert message here on the ship, I thought, why not play it now? Dal is trying to downplay things as everybody kind of comes running to the bridge when the alert goes off. But he's managed to navigate them into the gravity well of a white dwarf star. And he acts all cool like he can handle it. But it's pretty clear he has no idea what to do.
No, absolutely none.
Yeah, Janeway offers to help, but Dal just dismisses her. She kind of leaves in a huff. And I really like sassy Janeway here.
Dal is so much bluff over any actual talent.
Ugh.
I like him.
Of course you do.
Maybe this is overanalysis, but do you think he could be one of Gul Dukat's kids?
Oh my God. I hope not. Please do not make me watch another show with Gul Dukat on it. Ugh. I dislike Dal so much so far in this episode.
Yeah, they're not making him a terribly likable character so far.
Not yet.
Dal tells Z to change course, but nothing is working. They're still heading for the star's gravity well.
It's cute how Dal has started to call Zero Z.
Yes.
I like the little nickname.
Right. I think it shows a growing level of familiarity.
Yeah, or again, a coolness. I'm so cool, I give everybody a nickname.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
Once again, we start getting great music as the threat builds towards the ship. They really have the music down for this show.
Yeah.
Dal diverts all power to the impulse engines, which means Janeway disappears, the shields go down, and the force field in the brig drops, so Gwyn is free. Now, I see that as something of a problem.
Well, it doesn't even really make sense that when you divert all power that it would drop the shield of the brig. I can get why it might shut down holograms, but I'm not sure that it would actually release all the prisoners you had in the brig.
Well, I have a theory here.
Sure.
It was Hologram Janeway who controls lower level functions of the ship, teaching them a lesson.
I don't think that's necessarily the lesson that she would teach. I think maybe it's a little bit more likely that Pog was just pressing buttons and actually told it to move all of the power to the impulse engines, including every single thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, Gwyn tries to escape. She heads for some escape pods, but Dal is now dumping all extra weight, so the escape pods are just disappearing in front of her. And then the computer helpfully offers to replicate a shuttlecraft for her.
Replicate a shuttlecraft.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is not your usual Federation ship, is it?
No, definitely not. I was super annoyed, though, by this scene when he started dumping all the other stuff on the ship. I'm like, first of all, you don't even know what that is. And secondly, are you going to go back for that? Because I think you're going to need it.
Yeah, some of that stuff might be useful.
Yeah, although I suppose now that we realize we have this giant 3D printer in the cargo bay, maybe we can just print everything.
Yeah, it opens whole new possibilities about what they can make and replicate.
Yeah. Well, Dal is doing a terrible job because now the ship is getting damaged by space debris, which he just created a bunch of by dumping everything. This guy's a bonehead.
Terrible job might be an understatement here.
Yeah, he's going to get them all killed.
In the shuttle bay, we see the ship is 3D printing a new shuttlecraft. This is really awesome. As somebody who enjoys 3D printing, I really appreciated that.
You know who could have used this?
Who?
Cisco.
Oh, yeah.
They kept losing their shuttles. I mean, I'm only up to season 4, but it just seems like we lose a couple shuttles a season.
Yeah, at least.
I saw some people questioning why were they able to print a shuttlecraft if they diverted all power. And the only thing I could think of was that somehow she managed to override that order, or the fact that she started this after that order. I don't know, but I think it's a good question.
Maybe there are priority systems and this was a priority system.
Exactly, because this could be critical. You're trying to print up something that you could actually escape on. And if the ship is somehow aware that it is about to be destroyed, then this is a way to escape.
Yeah, and you might need a shuttle.
Yeah.
Rok-Tahk is sent down to deal with Gwyn, and a very annoyed Rok-Tahk points out that Gwyn never helped them. She calls Gwyn a bad lady and is very angry.
She kind of went in angry. I mean, she got mad that Dal told her to go down and deal with Gwyn and, was treating her like muscle and also maybe just ordering her around, which kids don't tend to like that much, or anyone for that matter.
No.
But I mean, she went in angry and she got madder as she talked to Gwyn.
Oh, definitely. They start fighting and we see Gwyn has transformed her arm thing now into a shield this time, as Rok is bashing her with what looks like a set of metal ladders.
Yeah.
Gwyn tries to rationalize her behavior, saying she was only doing what she was told. Sorry, kid, that didn't work at Nuremberg. It's not going to work here. Yep. We do also see that Rok is very, very strong.
This is a cool fight as they're right in the middle of that 3D printer. This is a thing that they really couldn't have done as easily in a live action show.
No.
So it's pretty cool that they take advantage of animation like that.
Yeah, and they really spell out how strong Rok-Tahk is because she punches through the partially built shuttle like it was nothing. It was like 2 punches and she's through.
Yep, and she's just marching towards Gwyn.
That is not a sight you want to see.
No.
Gwyn manages to make it to a panel and disables the gravity, and they all start floating. She tries apologizing to Rok, saying, for what it's worth, she is sorry. Yeah, it's a bit too late to apologize.
Yeah, but you should still do it.
Yeah, but
maybe she finally is sorry, Maybe now that she recognizes she wasn't paying enough attention.
Yeah.
You have to have a way to make up for things. If you never forgive anybody and you never allow anybody to learn and grow, then what's the point?
That's very Star Trek of you.
Thank you.
The other thing here is she wasn't actually fighting Rok. She was really just trying to defend herself.
Right.
Because she didn't make a sword this time. She was basically making a shield. And we also saw that that shield could get knocked away because when Rok-Tahk hit her, the shield went flying off to the side. Although maybe Gwyn was being smart here because she already knows you can't really damage what appears to be a indestructible rock monster.
Yeah, right. She'd kind of already learned that lesson, so she was just trying to protect herself.
Yeah, just stay on the defensive until you can find a panel with a large button saying disable artificial gravity, which Federation ships typically have.
Which happened in Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
Well, Dal doesn't want to ask for help, but finally he calls Janeway and we get some lovely Voyager music just as she appears. It's amazing.
Yes.
She tells him how to restore gravity, which causes everyone to hit the deck, and Rok-Tahk recaptures Gwyn, basically by landing on top of her.
And how was she not crushed to death?
I don't know. I thought maybe she did crush her, but at the same time, maybe we're all supposed to think that she was careful to not crush her.
Yeah, they probably needed her character in later episodes. And the other thing that happened here was we see Z and I share the same left-right coordination.
Yeah, your other left. I've said that before, too. I totally related to that. Janeway helps get the shields back up and auto-targets the debris in their way. Z figures out a way to ride the shockwave out of trouble. Dal pretends that it was all his idea, which again is just him being a jerk.
Yes. We get a great effect sequence of them flying over the surface of a star and flying out the other side as it explodes. And they're out into free space. Another great effect sequence. I loved how when they're showing the effect of speed and gravity, they're sort of reacting to it. And the hologram Janeway is just standing there watching with a coffee.
Drinking her coffee.
Yeah.
Love it.
This whole flight sequence is so Star Trek as well. The animation is just beautiful. All my fears of animated Flash from the intern were unfounded.
Yeah, absolutely. On the bridge, there's a lot of cheering and laughter, and Gwyn can hear this from the brig, and she sighs with relief, but also some sadness.
This scene reminded me of an episode of Voyager, where there were those invisible aliens experimenting on the crew, and Janeway basically flew into a sun to force them to disengage from the ship and fly off.
She's seen a lot worse, so this was no big deal.
That's the one where Seven was the only one who could actually see the aliens. Dal thanks Janeway, which I actually found quite refreshing.
But did he really? I mean, he ended up saying that he saved them because he knew when to ask for help. You know, he took credit for Z's idea, and then he was like, oh, I knew to ask for help, so I obviously saved them.
Technically, that is true.
I don't think the rest of the crew is impressed with Dal, but they aren't leaders yet either, so nobody is stepping up to do more. And Janeway now gives a speech to the cadets about the forming of the Federation, about how they were all so different, but all had the same goal, to be better, and how even though they're a wayward crew, they have potential. Even Dal, apparently. I'm not so sure about that. But Dal asks for her to teach them, and Janeway says, we've only just begun.
Could you get more Star Trek than this bit?
Than the captain giving a dramatic speech?
Yes.
No, he can't. And also, you know, it's a good moment of leadership to not berate anybody or say anything negative, but instead focus on, hey, we did it. We got out of this. We acted like a team. This is great. We can build from here.
Yeah, I'm building on the goal of being better.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is what we're here for when it comes to Star Trek.
Yes.
So I'm happy to hear it. And I was happy to hear it come from Janeway.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So now we cut back to the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
And we see the diviner, who's wearing a suit that I'm pretty sure came from Metroid.
Sure.
Dreadnought tells him he's tracked the protostar's warp signature, and the diviner says, take me to the ship. And we cut back to the mines, where we see the cat again, and now it's working in the mines. This is very disturbing.
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to see that.
No.
I mean, I guess it's good that the cat's alive, but...
Yeah, that's true. That is the one plus to take away from this.
But there's no one there to care about it.
Yep.
And pet it.
Hey, maybe this is the origin story of the Doctor from Lower Decks.
Maybe. Except it's pink.
And before we get complaints, yes, I know the timeline doesn't align. Although, the cat could grow up and go through a wormhole and end up back in time.
Welcome to the headcanon.
That happens all the time in Star Trek.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it happens all the time on our podcasts, which it does.
The diviner's ship takes off, and it's a big one. And we know it's bad because it's all in red and black.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And as the ship leaves, he cloaks the whole asteroid. And the episode ends with the diviner saying, I'm coming for you, my progeny.
Yikes.
Not ominous at all. And the closing sequences of various nebula. And, it's just a graphically impressive ending. I assume some of this is just to show off the beautiful animation drawings that they've done. Well, it works.
Yeah, it was so interesting, too, that they cloaked the asteroid and not the ship.
Yeah.
But he hid the mine, and they said he called the cloak the same name as the stuff that they were mining.
Yeah.
So, that shows the value of the stuff they were mining. Because I wondered if the mine would lose value once the ship was gone, the protostar was gone. Would he just then do something bad to all of those prisoners? But no, he just keeps mining because there's still value in that stuff.
And hiding it would stop anyone else from staking a claim on the mine or trying to take it over.
Right.
Well, that wraps it up for the episode. So, on to the first section. Did anything stand out for you?
Oh, a lot of things. There was a lot of Janeway. That's maybe the thing that stood out the most, especially since we had so little of that in episodes 1 and 2. So very happy to see that. And there were a couple of lines that I really liked, like when Janeway was giving the Star Trek speech.
Yeah.
And Rok-Tahk said, I like to boldly go. At least I think I do. I thought that was an adorable line.
Yeah.
And then when they were about to be sucked into the star, Zero said, what a rare and exciting way to meet our doom. I mean, I laughed out loud. What a great line as well.
Yes.
And I think the other thing that stood out for me was I liked Dal last week. I did not like him this week.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just because they were really pushing that bravado in order to help him learn a lesson, which is something you might want to do in a kid's show.
Yes.
But I'd be curious to see how they carry forward with this character because some of the feedback we got as well was like, I did not like Dal in this episode.
Yeah.
And when we go to our kid correspondent, she did not like Dal in this episode. So I don't think they can continue with that.
Yeah.
If they want him to be the main character.
I think it's done deliberately to show the most negative aspects of Dal's behavior and the traits that he's learned in the mines. So you want to start him off, if you like, in a negative place so you can have something of a redemption or a growth arc.
I guess so.
I really hope so.
I really hope so. Yeah, exactly. Now, I think those were the things that stood out to me. I was just happy to have it feel like Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. I think they leapt straight into the Star Trek universe. They gave a fantastic intro into what the Federation was and what Starfleet's purpose was. And then the total Star Trek commanding officer speech at the end.
Yeah. Love it.
Completely.
How about you? What stood out for you?
They got to save that cat.
Yes. They have got to save that cat.
And then the animation, I think, is just beautiful. It is so impressive in the show. And the character that stands out for me is I love the visual look of Jang Pog. I think it looks wonderfully organic, but also his outfit and his multi-function arm. It's a great animated character.
That is a really good character. Yeah, I mean, it does look fantastic for sure.
Yeah.
But also, I quite like the humor of it. I mean, it says a few unexpected things.
Yeah.
I think in other shows, this might have been a character I wouldn't have liked.
Yeah.
But I definitely like him quite a bit so far. And he's got a lot of funny lines.
Agreed. And of course, what is that other engine core warp thing?
Quantum slipstream. How about character development? What did we learn about these characters in this episode? I mean, last week we kind of walked through each of them, but maybe we can just talk about development specifically on a couple of them.
So let's start with the heroes then.
Well, we learned about Gwyn second-guessing her father and her role in that prison, right? That was new.
But does she really go on to heroes?
Well, I think that's a fair question. Rok-Tahk certainly wouldn't put her there, but I think we're all hoping that that's where she's going to go.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to believe that Dao grew in this episode, or did he just find a way to exploit the hologram's knowledge?
I think he's starting to learn that you can't do it all on your own.
Maybe. I mean, he's got to get out of the captain's quarters. That's super jerky behavior. Because the rest of them are in bunks. I don't like that. That's very childish.
Well, I think that's just typical of Starfleet and the officers and the enlisted.
Here we go again. Folks, you got to listen to ReBinge Deep Space Nine to hear all these complaints. How about the villains? Anything to say about the villains?
This was the only sort of Star Wars-y feeling part of the episode.
Yeah. Their dark room.
Yes. Their Imperial Tower.
Yeah. Yep. Where the color completely changes when they go to them.
Right.
And also, that's not so much of a Star Trek thing where we go to the villain.
Yes.
A lot of times you only see the villain when the villain is attacking or when the good guys are around it. We rarely go to the Romulans on their own.
Yeah.
That's just very different.
And when you do, it's not usually such a contrast of the lighting will be the same. It will just have maybe a different sort of look and tone.
Yeah.
But it won't be like the Emperor's throne room of it's all black and red.
Right. And even the music will be similar, but it might just be a little somber.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the ship a little bit. I mean, the ship was cool. We got a look at a number of the areas. It seems like it's very small, right?
It does.
Yeah, there's just really a couple of areas that we visited, and it didn't seem like there were a lot more places to go.
Brian asked the question, I think it was last week, of how many decks does it have?
Yeah, doesn't seem like many. Like, we didn't even see a turbo lift. We just saw them walking to places.
Right, that's a really good point.
Yep.
But it does have a 3D printer in the shuttle bay.
It does, and it does have giant captain's quarters, which I'm not sure makes sense.
Well, the 1% get to enjoy the benefits.
Right. So we're still looking to learn more about the engines. We just know they have 2 warp cores and some secret blue thing in the middle.
Yeah, the technology seems to be way more advanced than anything we've seen in Trek to this point. Seems even more so than Picard. Yeah,
this is very suspicious of what's going on here.
Is this technology from the future? So even if the show is set in 2383, is this a ship from the future?
Yeah, I thought about that too. And I guess we don't know. And if we're looking at this as a prototype, then, prototypes can quite frequently seem like they're from the future.
True, yeah.
But prototypes don't always work fully. Sometimes they just look futuristic from the outside. Yeah. But, this clearly has some kind of futuristic drive going on. But there are drives within Star Trek that are more advanced than what Starfleet generally uses.
Yes.
So they could be using a drive from something else. Like I said, it could be transwarp, could be quantum slipstream. Yeah, it could just be that.
Right.
So let's move on to how this worked as a kid's show. So let me go to Mahi, our 6-year-old correspondent.
I like today's episode because Captain Janeway helps them get out of the dying star, even though Del Rey acts like a mean, arrogant, and lying bully.
What about Hologram Janeway? What did you think about her?
I really like Captain Janeway because she is kind, respectful, and helps them get out of the dying star.
Why do you think Rok-Tahk was so angry?
I think Rok-Tahk was angry because Gwyn had not helped her in the mines and had assumed that she was a criminal.
Do you think Dal is a good captain?
I do not think Dal is a good captain. First, he put Gwyn into the brig, even though she tried to help him. Next, he did not listen to Captain Janeway, even though she was trying to help him. He acted like he knew everything. He thought he could do it all on his own. Del Rey did not want to ask for help and turn Captain Janeway off, although his team asked him to call for help.
What did you learn about asking for help?
You should ask someone who is knowledgeable for help when you don't know a certain thing. You could try it first, but it is okay to ask for help.
What did you learn from the show today?
I learned many things today. I learned that asking for help helps you learn and improve. I also learned that we could be kind no matter what someone else does, like Rok-Tahk sharing her food with Gwyn, even though Gwyn never helped her. Also, everybody on the team should do their part correctly for the team to be able to reach their goal. And one person cannot do it all.
Well, I think Mahi has made it quite clear that she was not impressed with Dal either.
Yeah, when the kids see his behavior as a problem, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. So even though she didn't say this in her recording, her mom sent me some further information. And she said that Mahi was impressed by the Federation of Planets and their mission of liberty, rights, equality, and freedom. And she asked if the Federation is located somewhere in the United States. And her mom had to tell her that it's fictional. But she's certain that it's a great idea to have a Federation with that mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this kid knows what she's talking about. And she is ready for Star Trek. This is great.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Well, we have one other small piece of feedback from James the Augmented Sailor and his 2-year-old son, Connor. So let me just play that.
Hi, this is James the Augmented Sailor and Connor for the Prodigy podcast. So, Connor, what did you think of Prodigy?
That
That is Connor for Connor liked Prodigy.
What about Slimer?
The Slimer isn't in Prodigy. What about Jake and Pog?
Tikabot and Mishka.
No, Mishka's our dog.
So thank you, James and Connor. It sounds like maybe James enjoyed it a little bit more than Connor.
Yes.
But maybe if Slimer joins sometime, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, Connor has brought up the Ghostbusters link to Prodigy.
Yeah, and last week, James linked it to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Wow, it's hitting all the franchises.
It is. Well, let's go to our feedback section and talk about the feedback that we got on Facebook. And it actually starts with James the Augmented Sailor.
And as it's James, I have to read the feedback.
Sure.
And James's rating is 9.1. I believe Murph is eating a chair. That seems like a good rating.
That was funny. There were some really funny parts in this episode. And yeah, Murph eating the chair was very amusing.
Oh, definitely. And James says that his 2-year-old son, Connor, likes the show, even though it's not Paw Patrol. Next feedback is from Wes H. I enjoyed the episode, loved everything about it. I can agree with Wes on that. And a feedback from Jim S.
Another Jim.
Liked it a lot. Still not liking Dal. Loving Hologram Janeway. Well, who doesn't love Hologram Janeway?
Yeah, I think Jim has summed up the hour that we've been sitting here talking.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if we'd gone with Jim's feedback, it would have been a very short podcast, but accurate.
Absolutely. Well, now I'll read Brian from Colorado, who we heard from last week, who was a little frustrated by how Star Warsy the previous episode was. He says, I give Season 1, Episode 3 of Prodigy 7 out of 10 vehicle replicators. We're starting to see more of a Star Trek tone come through, so I like the direction it's going. More screen time with Hologram Janeway was a real treat. Her explanation of the Federation was very uplifting, and did I see Spock in her holographic presentation of Federation history?
Yeah.
The way she interacts with the crew and knows and monitors ship functions reminds me a little of the holographic character William on Another Life. I enjoyed that she coached the kids to push the right buttons and save the ship. Plus, she had a cup of coffee. That's so fitting. I also enjoyed the introduction of the vehicle replicator. Now we know why Starfleet ships seem to lose shuttles, but magically get them back. I didn't understand why Dal's simple command to divert all power took power away from some services like the brig and shields, which has never happened as far as I know in another series. But maybe this ship has a more literal voice recognition AI than others. It's still bothering me that Jankum hardly looks like a Tellarite at all, yet somehow Janeway recognized him immediately as being one. I'm really not liking the bad guy Vader, Snoke, Diviner. The creators seem to just have rolled the Star Wars baddies into one with his character. At least we didn't see as much of General Grievous or Dreadnought this time. Don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars, but this is Trek, and as such should stand on that tradition and not try to blur the line with Star Wars. Criticism aside, I do like the show, particularly its production quality. The protostar visuals, space scenes, and musical scores are breathtaking and inspiring, very theatrical. I can't wait to see where the series takes us next.
Oh, absolutely.
Then I've got Brian as well. Brian was with us last week. This is Brian from Talk Through Media. Like last week, I'm going to give this episode 9 holographic coffees. See, I told you there'd be coffee. I would have given the episode a higher rating, but I was a bit negative toward Dal and his knee-jerk reaction to refusing to want to go toward Federation space, as well as them just going into a gravity well without any kind of a warning as to what they'd get if they went there.
Janeway was teaching them a lesson.
I guess we see the limitation of the Janeway hologram. She's dependent on the crew being honest with her. I agree about the complaint about us never seeing a situation where diverting everything causes necessary systems to turn off. For example, I'm now in a rapid rewatch of Discovery in prep for the show's return, and we see the brig stay activated, though everything around it has been deactivated as long as it could have remained operational. Burnham escapes prior to the force fields failing in the brig. However, as Janeway says, the show and crew has potential. As far as the Star Wars similarities, I guess I'm not bothered by them. I've never watched a single animated Star Wars series, so I wouldn't recognize the similarities as much as some.
Yeah.
And as far as General Grievous and any resemblance to Dreadnought, I can't remember how long it's been since I've seen that character. I had no recollection of Grievous at all, to be honest, so I had to look Grievous up. What can I say? It's been a while since I've watched the prequels. What did I love? That's simple. It was when Janeway introduces the Federation and Starfleet to the crew, and we see outlines of famous ships and characters. Did anyone else find that the Andorian from the sequence looked like Spock with antenna? It looked like Spock greeting Spock with antenna.
It did look a little Vulcan, yeah.
Yeah, and he finishes up by saying, and it was sad to see the kitty with the suit is still working the mines. Totally agree.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like general consensus that Dal was annoying this week and nobody liked him, right? And he was also the one that needed to learn the lesson about being able to ask for help.
Right.
So it makes some sense that he wouldn't just trust the Federation out of the gate, if he'd never had anything to believe in before.
I think that worked for the character.
But I mean, that's also going to grate on Trek fans because, this is the reason that we watch it. This is what we're here for. This is what we already believe.
And I think that's where this is going to be different. These aren't Federation citizens. They're not Starfleet cadets or personnel. They're coming from a very different place.
Right.
And I think people need to maybe roll with that for a bit.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you can't make full and complete assumptions of the entire series just yet. I mean, it already changed dramatically since last week.
And I think from a show perspective that it's a good approach to bring people into Star Trek. If you take people who have nothing, if you like, to do with the Star Trek world, and you turn these characters into a Starfleet Federation type crew.
Right.
So maybe the younger viewers or the viewers who really don't know Star Trek get an appreciation for what the series can be or what Star Trek can be.
I mean, maybe we're trying to make that journey that we've been on this, it's been around for 55 years. There's been a 55-year journey of Star Trek to get us to this point. But we're showing this to people who have, or to children who have probably, I guess, never watched a Star Trek episode before. So we have to be willing to take that journey with them to get this new audience on board. So I would just say, we can't get too frustrated by this stuff. Let's walk the journey at least a little bit and see if that's where it's taking us.
Agreed.
Well, let's talk about the Star Trekkiness of the episode. I feel like we've touched on it quite a bit already, but what do you think?
Janeway's history of the Federation and Starfleet. What an awesome way to introduce this.
Agreed.
What about you?
Janeway drinking coffee.
Oh, just perfect.
Totally Star Trek.
Yep.
And then also that second Janeway speech at the end, right? And trying to get them to work together and talking about the benefits of the teamwork. I mean, come on. That was great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a call through all of Star Trek's, all the way back to the original series. The important speech to set out the objectives or the goals of how you can do better.
Yeah.
And then there was the escape sequence. I felt like we've seen that before, but it was just beautifully done.
Right.
They could lay off the lens flare a little bit. Jar Jar Abrams has kind of overused that a bit.
I wonder if that was actually a callback. Were they doing it on purpose?
Oh,
to make a link to, another version of Star Trek.
Kind of old hat. Let it go.
I don't know. That's one of those things that just doesn't bother me. I don't even see it. Well, one more thing I'd like to talk about is, what about the Vaunakat? That's the species of the Diviner and Gwyn. What do you think about it being species 116 from Voyager, which is the last episode of season 4, episode 26? This is a fan theory that I've seen in a couple of places now. And this episode has a bald alien played by Ray Wise, who
Yeah.
can't play a good guy, it's impossible, who can learn any language almost instantly, and he has a very advanced starship
Yeah.
with a quantum slipstream drive. That's why I keep bringing it up. And also, he has a great distaste for Janeway specifically and for the Federation.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched this episode a couple of days ago, and it's tough to ignore the link.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I can see the parallels, but I don't think so.
Why not?
Because the diviner doesn't seem to have an enormous head. Neither does Gwyn.
Well, that was also makeup.
Yes.
90s makeup. I think it's them.
And in that episode, he has a very advanced ship, a ship that is far more advanced than the technology that the Federation has.
True.
And in this episode, we see the diviner has a very large ship, which is probably very powerful. And if it's that much more powerful than the Federation or advanced than the Federation was, why would you even care about a Federation ship?
Well, that could have been a prototype as well.
That does lead into my, if he cares about this ship, it's because it's from the future and has technology that is way further ahead.
Ah, okay. That's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll find out.
Oh, that would be good.
Well, let's move into ratings.
Yes.
So what do you give as a rating this week?
This gets another 10 out of 10.
Do you think you'll ever give anything other than a 10?
It depends. We'll have to see what happens, but I think this hit all the high marks of a Star Trek show. Humor, science, working together, the theories of the Federation, the theories of doing better, of being better. So, yeah, what can I say? Loved it.
I loved it too. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, I got stuck on Dal, didn't like
Yeah.
Dal, but really like Janeway. Loved the way she described the
Yes.
Federation and Starfleet. There was so much humor in it. I mean, there were multiple times when we were watching it for the second time when I paused it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay, this show is funny. You know, that
Yeah.
was a great line. I really enjoyed it. And so, yeah, I still give it a high rating and I look forward to it continuing to do more Star Trek-y stuff.
Right. It captures a wonderful feeling of optimism.
Yes, we didn't feel quite as much optimism in the first couple of episodes because we had to break free from that place that we were. But there was a lot more in this episode. And there was also a little bit of, interesting stuff going on with the characters. Like we saw the anger coming out of Rok-Tahk and also the sort of irrational behavior that maybe a child would have, where she just got super angry and it didn't really make sense. But then there was the sweet moment where she was like, well, I haven't really had any food except this stuff that I used to get in the mines. I don't know anything else. And it was just very sweet and meaningful.
Right.
And it was good to see Gwyn start to think a little bit, gosh, maybe I'm not right about everything. Maybe my dad's not right about everything.
Maybe following orders isn't the right way of living your life.
Exactly. I worry we could maybe oversimplify it being on a kid's show because it shouldn't be quite that easy for her to have a redemption arc. At the same time, we have to allow people to grow and learn a better way. And if she is able to do that, it'll be really interesting to watch how she grows and changes.
And how you tell that to kids, I think, will be the interesting thing.
Absolutely. There was not much of Z in this episode, but, Z had a couple of really cool lines. If you're watching on Paramount Plus, like on Apple TV and Fire TV, I believe that there are some extras you can watch. And there is a little extra of Janeway talking about the lesson from this episode being about when to learn to ask for help. And it's actually really cool. That wasn't necessarily the lesson that I was picking up from it until I watched that. And, we watched it once, then I watched that little clip, and then we watched it the second time. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that is the lesson that I'm seeing here.
Oh, interesting.
But, I didn't quite get that immediately.
That's funny you should say that. That was what I picked up from this episode straight off, which was this is a show about you can't do everything yourself. Sometimes you have to ask for help.
Yeah, teamwork. That's to me is a slightly different thing. But yeah, I did pick that up.
Yeah.
But I was much more focused on the redemption arc with Gwyn and also with Rok-Tahk than I was on the, come on, Dal, pull your head out and actually listen to the things that are being said around you and ask for some help. So I guess I was more annoyed about that part, so I wasn't picking that up as the lesson.
Yeah, that's true. You were.
But still, I mean, I have nothing else negative to say.
Agreed.
All right, anything else you'd like to say?
No, that wraps it up for a great episode of Prodigy.
One last quick topic I want to mention is there's a new Star Trek documentary called The Center Seat, 55 Years of Star Trek, which began airing tonight, I think, just as we're recording here. So November 5th, 2021. This is a multi-episode documentary, and I read that the intro is narrated by Gates McFadden, so I look forward to watching that. It's on the History Channel, and I'll be tuning in, even though we don't get the History Channel, but I will find a way to watch it streaming.
Indeed.
Before we wrap up, I want to let you know that James and I can always be reached on ReBingeIt at gmail.com and also on Twitter and Instagram at RebingeIt.
And don't forget, you can listen to our DS9 podcast called ReBinge Deep Space Nine, available everywhere you can get your podcasts.
To contact us for Prodigy and even be a part of the show if you'd like, you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts. Don't forget the S at the end. You can also leave audio and written feedback at talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, or you can simply email us at rebingeit@gmail.com. So lots of ways to get in touch with us if you want to be part of the podcast.
Hit those keys, people. That's it for this week. Come back next week to hear the ReBinge It crew take on a new episode of Star Trek Prodigy.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.